that you gotta. Greetings and salutations, friends. Welcome back to Truthseekers. I'm so happy you're all here. And I'm especially happy that we have a surprise visitor on the phone. For those that don't know, there's these rumors going around that Richard Doty is recommending Awakening Man to get Lou Elizondo's old job. So we reached out to the actual source, and we're having these technical difficulties, so we couldn't get Richard and Eric on at once. But we have Richard Doty on the phone. How you doing, Richard?
Great, Steve. How are you doing?
Great. And I wanted to reach out to you because apparently the government is looking for somebody to run a new UFO program. And I can't tell you, maybe 3 different people told me that they heard that you are writing letters or reaching out to old contacts and recommending Eric the Awakening Man to get Lou Elizondo's old job. Is there any truth to these rumors?
I've heard the rumors. In fact, I received probably a half a dozen emails from people, or probably 2 dozen emails from people asking me the exact same question.
Oh, that's something else.
No, there's no truth to it. I mean, Eric would be a fantastic person for the job, but no, I'd rather have him in the private community.
Yeah, I was good. That was going to be my next question. You know what's funny about Eric is it doesn't matter what's going on in conspiracy land, right? I heard another show host say this, and this is totally true. If you go to Contact in the Desert, Eric is there. Conscious Life Expo, he's there. If you go to some little UFO conference in the middle of like Sheboygan, Illinois or something, he's there. If you go to Denny's at 3 o'clock in the morning and there's 4 guys talking about UFOs or, Bigfoot or aliens, Awakening Man is there. I don't know how he does it, right?
Yeah, I don't either.
And you guys are doing a new project together. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're going to, I think I'm going to be able to enter your studio here in a minute. I think
there we go. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah. All right. Hold on. Let me kill the phone call.
Yeah, let's kill the phone call here. And
okay. Sorry about that. Oh, good to see you.
I'm somewhat of a tech wizard at times, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's always weird with the first-time guests that never use this software. It's real easy unless it doesn't work. Like we had, I don't know if you know him, we had John Warner on, and he, I always joke with him that he's a member of the Illuminati, the Warner family, they're so rich, and Mellons and everything. His mom was a Mellon. And he has these super secure browsers that are like DOD quality super secure browsers, and he could not get in at all. He had to go like get a burner laptop and put Chrome on it to be able to, because he's using the Illuminati browser, But
yeah, there's a browser out there that we use, people with an intelligence. It was actually developed down in Texas by a guy that worked IT within the government. It's called ANOC, ANNOC, and it's a very sophisticated analog encryption software that really is good. And I do have it, but not on this computer. I'm actually in a hotel room up in Boulder at Gaia. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I heard you doing the interviews there and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have about 25 episodes.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you. I started asking you about this new project that you're going to be doing with Eric from the Awakening Man. Is that like the Richard Doty files? We're finally going to get
the Doty Chronicles.
We're finally going to get the Richard Doty Chronicles. That's awesome.
Yeah, and
what are you guys? You guys, it's going to be a whole series, right?
It's going to be a series because there's, I think we figured there could be up to about over 100 different topics, and we don't know how we're going to arrange the topics or how. So, I'm going to disclose things I haven't in the past. So,
that's going to be very interesting. Let's see. Eric, are you there?
Yes, I am.
There we go. We have Eric the Awakening Man. So, Eric, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because I have heard these rumors that Richard Doty's writing you letters of recommendation to take Lou Elizondo's job. And then Christopher Mellon put out this letter complaining about why Lou Elizondo can't have his job back. And I don't even understand him thinking that's a possibility, because basically Lou Elizondo rubber stamped a release of what, 3 or 4 classified videos, and then he's been making a living off of that release for the past 4 or 5 years. Why would they give him his job back? So he can release more stuff, get more book deals? I don't understand. Well, don't you think you do a better job, Eric, than that guy?
I'll tell you what, I still, I'm going to guess Rick has more insight than I do by a long shot, but I still haven't totally figured out what's going on with Mr. Elizondo. But I will say this in a positive light. whatever he's doing, he's very professional. He's well-spoken. He's generally polite and respectful. And so whatever his assignment is or isn't, I think he's doing a good job. Now, if they want to give him his job back at the DOD, I'm guessing that maybe his time with the TTSA is kind of finished and maybe he wants to go in another direction. I don't know, but I'm wondering if the TTSA fanboys and girls will be upset if he goes back to the DOD. What do you think, Rick? Do you think it's even possible? And why would he want to go back to the DOD? And what would be the psychology behind that, if there is any?
He talks a lot of crap about him.
Yeah, exactly. He's I think he's burned his bridge behind him, and I don't think they take him back. I still have a number of contacts within the intelligence community, and most of them speak very highly of him. I mean, while he was in, I personally don't know the man. I actually was in the same room with him once, but I've never actually met him. But you know, he's professional, like Eric said. I think he's done a great job. But I think he has an ulterior motive. I think there's something out there that he's working on. It's
called cash, Richard Doty. It's called cash. Yeah. It's the UFO cash.
That's what I was going to say. That's going to make him a lot of money. So no, I don't think they take him back. I think he burned his bridges. I think he violated his security oath. I don't think they would take him back.
So let me run this by you, Steve. Do you think that this, Stephen, from your perspective, could this just be like a empathy, sympathy ploy from, I'm speculating. I'm not accusing Mr. Mellon of doing this, but he's just trying to gain more favor with the community, and that if in fact Lou doesn't get his job back at DOD, then that's going to make him even more of a hero in the UFO Twitter community. What do you think, Stephen?
Yeah, I think all of this is PR nonsense. Those guys are thick as thieves. Mellon and him are buddies, and they're grifting together. They got the job at TTSA together, and I guess that ran its course. I'm always interested in why Lou Elizondo gets interviewed all the time, and nobody says, "Hey, what happened to that spaceship that you promised investors when you were a member of TTSA, and all those other things you promised you never did?" And the same for Christopher Mellon. No, they get a pass, you know. And if you look at it, they raised $34 million. I don't know what they did with $34 million. You know, there's problematic. I'm not a fan of Lou. And, I get attacked constantly because if you ever say anything negative about the guy, you get attacked by an army of trolls on Twitter, you know, and it's all like brand new accounts, which is weird, you know, like accounts that just joined Twitter last month will start lambasting you. You don't know anything. Lou's a hero and shit. You know, I don't, you know. Yeah, and I just want to mention to Richard Doty that he is the most requested second interview that I've ever gotten. And we won't call this one the second interview, but I'm glad that he finally got to be here on Truthseekers, even though I'm going to get beat up. He's a known disinformation agent. And I try to explain your history and the things that you've been involved in. And, you know, one of the things that I think Richard gets vilified wrongly for is that when you're a military man, you get orders. You just do what they tell you, right, Richard? I mean, exactly. You got to do what they tell you.
Exactly. And then I get awarded for it. I mean, I have a number of awards for professionalism and the things that I did. And you just don't get some of these awards. I mean, I got an award from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Vesey, back in the 80s. And you just don't get that for not doing your job. And I did my job. And there's a lot of things that I did I didn't necessarily agree with. And I thought there might have been a different way to doing it. But when my boss tells me to do it this way, I did it. And we were successful in it. So, I mean, and disinformation wasn't my entire workload. And most people don't realize that. I mean, I did major counterintelligence operations to protect highly classified projects that the government was doing. And that
one of those revelations from you that I thought was amazing is that the Benowitz thing, he was seeing early drones that were being tested, and that's what they were trying to protect. And I've got a big question for you, Mr. Doty, and that is that Dark Journalist, he has a show, Dark Journalist, he is really big of this saying, or the X-Protect group. In other words, there's a secret government bunch of people that are protecting the UFO file or secret projects. You were a part of that organization that he believes is a real organization, people that are protecting either extraterrestrial technology or super advanced, drone technology or whatever kind of technology that the government is hiding at Area 51. Is there an X-Protect group?
Yes, yes. I wouldn't call it that, but you can call it whatever you want. But there is an organization within an organization that does exactly that's protecting the secrets, and they're so well placed that it's difficult. There's so many layers. It's difficult for somebody in the outside to ever find out who they are, and even the people inside, like myself, it's difficult. It would be difficult to find out exactly who these people are and where all these things are hidden. Now, I know what I did and I know what I saw, and my security oath is expired some years ago, and there's only been on 2 occasions where the FBI or U.S. intelligence contacted me and said to me, "You're saying too much about a particular subject," and there was a reason for that.
Oh, interesting. So they checked you. They checked you, right?
Yeah. One of the things I spoke about might have been still classified, and so I understood it, and I said to him, I won't talk about that anymore, and they left me alone. Now, there's ways to talk about it without really talking about it, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I've also heard multiple people say that if you were involved in any of that stuff, one way that people talk about it without talking about it is they write fiction books.
Right.
But they fill the fictional book full of, real events, change the names, change the places, and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for a Richard Doty Men in Black book. That's what I want.
Another way, Stephen, another way would be to get a guy like Awakening Man to do a show with you and let him leak the information out, and then he could have plausible deniability.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about. Well, that's what I was going to say. But
Eric, I'm excited. I am so excited.
Eric's
about this.
my agent now. He's my agent.
Thank you very much. I'm honored, highly honored.
I can't wait to see this project, Eric. And if you want any input or help from me, I'm all for it. You guys are going to be doing the Richard Doty Chronicles, and he just said this, Eric. He's going to be releasing things he's never talked about, never before heard information.
Yep.
So you're going to have the goods on new information, which is so rare in the UFO community. I mean, look. We just spent the past week arguing because somebody labeled something on Google Maps S4 Research Center. And then we find out that anybody can label anything. It might get taken down. There's this whole thing. And then it turns out that the guy who found it pretended to have terminal brain cancer so that he could steal $4,000 from an event that was organized for him. And he even stole the gift cards from the event. Not a credible witness. There's so little new information, right?
Well, let me tell you something real quick. Something occurred about I guess it was about 8 months ago. I think it was in May. So, whatever it is, six or 7 months ago. A guy, I'm not going to name him, but he was doing research on Area 51. He went to libraries, like people don't use them anymore, but he went to libraries around in Nevada, in Las Vegas, and he also went to the National Archives, and he found maps, old maps of the area, old maps of the Nevada test site, old maps dating back to the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and with those maps, he studied them and found out that he found 2 maps that actually had a construction site at Papoose Lake. And on this map, it was an official government map. It was a United States Geodetic Survey map. On this map, it said S2 complex under construction by United States Air Force. and it showed on a secondary map that was attached to the primary map, it showed a construction site exactly at Papoose Lake.
Oh, that's
Now,
interesting.
he didn't know how to present this, and he contacted some people. Unfortunately to him, he contacted one wrong person, and that wrong person notified the government, and the FBI paid him a visit and confiscated those maps. They confiscated all the maps, but they eventually gave all but that one back to him. But what he did was he took a picture of that map with his cell phone. So he has that picture, but he's definitely afraid to disclose it.
A quick question, Rick. So, as you know, and maybe the listeners don't know, is originally back in the 50s, early 60s, when what's now called Area 51 was being built and developed, it was a CIA project. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then how did it go from a CIA project into the hands of whoever the controllers might be now? What do you know about the history of how that all happened?
Well, the CIA built the facility, but they had to bring in the Air Force because the planes that they were testing out there, the U-2s, and during that time period were owned by the Air Force. But the CIA had a number of other projects that they wanted to do in that area because it was so remote. So they built the area over a period of time. There was George Knapp. He knows all the contractors that did this. This is all open source knowledge now. I mean, there's nothing hidden about what they did and what they built out there, except for Papoose Lake. And so in 1974, the CIA asked the Air Force to take over the facilities because, number one, Congress wouldn't fully fund black projects. The Air Force it was easier for the Air Force to, and so the whole area was turned over to the Air Force. Now the CIA still has facilities there, both on Groom Lake Complex and other locations around there.
And what about the DOD is out there also, from what I understand?
Well, the the Air Force works. All the military agencies work for the Department of Defense, and the Department. What big agency out there that's within the Department of Defense is DARPA.
Yes,
and DARPA is the Advanced Research Project Agency that funds research projects, highly classified research projects, and DARPA is a big entity out there at Area 51.
Now Stephen's been on this mission to debunk Bob Lazar, which I don't have a problem with that. But
yeah, me and Eric agree on so many things, but we disagree on that. And hey, Eric, just so you know, Richard Doty once sent me his real Area 51 badges, like pictures of them, so that I can compare to Bob Lazar's fake one. And I've had about 6 or 7 different people that I can verify, including Mr. Doty, that actually worked there, send me badges, and I've never seen any badge that looks anything like Bob Lazar's fake one. And everyone who sent me one, they bear some similarity because there were different time frames, but we disagree, okay. Eric.
All right. Well, let me say this. The reason why I even brought up Bob's name is, as Richard told me, that he happens to believe Bob. So maybe if you can give your briefing on why you believe Bob Lazar's story, or what portion of it you believe, and maybe is there a portion that you're not so clear about or you're not so sure about, Rick?
Well, Bob has described the area of S2. He calls it S4, and because he called it S4, most people in open source media calls it S4. Actually, S4 is a facility under S2. The complex at Papoose Lake is called S2. Okay, Site 2, and it has an underground facility which is called S4. There's 4 levels under there. I've never been at S4. I've been in S2. S2 is built into the mountain. It's the administrative control facilities for S4. S2, S3. I mean S3 and S4, the underground facilities. So S2 is the complex. Everything under there is the S. And now I understand there's an S5. Somebody just mentioned that and told me who actually works out there. So he describes the entrance to S2, how you actually get in. The doors open, you drive in, there's administrative control, there's the security checkpoint, there's a exchange badge system to get there. There's places to park a vehicle in there, and then you walk down a particular a tunnel to the elevators. And there's distinctions. There's certain things that only somebody that has been there, would know. And when we quizzed Bob about that, he answered every one of those questions correctly. And then there's another particular thing about the elevators. Only somebody that's been there and has been on them would know this abnormality, so to speak, or idiosyncrasy about the elevators. And he told us. He told us exactly how they operated. And now he described S4. Well, I've never been down there. Others that I know have been. So I can't say what he was describing down there was truthful because, like I said, I never had an actual need to know to be down there. Only Bob did. Now, Bob could have gotten this information from other people, and that's very possible. But there's a guy out there by the name of Paul McGovern. He's up in his 90s. He was chief of security for Area 51. George Knapp knows him. There's many people have interviewed him, and he verified in 1999 that Bob Lazar was, in fact, well, I should say, Paul McGovern verified that Bob Lazar had a access to S2. That's what he actually said. So take it for what you.
Is it possible that since he became buddies with John Lear, that for whatever reason, John Lear seems like a very colorful character who might even be for fun, just mess around with people. Could he have fed Lazar some information, Lazar thinking it's real, then repeated it along with his own personal experiences? Maybe Lear was trying to give him more information, whether it was true or not, just to build up the story more without Bob's knowledge.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's very possible. I know Bob and John are friends. I'm friends with John. I wouldn't necessarily call myself friends with Bob, but I mean, he's an acquaintance. I've had conversations with him, but I don't, I wouldn't call him a friend, just an acquaintance. So I think Bob must have. I actually think he was there, and it's after when I was there. I mean, I was there from 83 to 86, so and he was there after that. So who knows what kind of security systems were changed after I left? I don't know. Maybe there was the hand print thing that he's talking about, and so that's what people want to believe, I guess. Now, this picture that we're looking at right here.
Yeah, this is this new S4 that somebody had found. Then they had to do all this mental gymnastics because these two structures we're seeing in the picture are only 100 foot by 100 foot. So then they drew hangar bay doors on the back of it that were only 10 feet wide. So to me, that busted the whole story that this is the mythical S4 because a 52-foot spacecraft can't get in and out of a 12-foot door. They did all of this mental gymnastics to make this fit. Bob said it was on right off of Papoose Lake. This is 6 miles from Papoose Lake. The only evidence that they had, the people that came out with this story, was that somebody, we don't know who, labeled it with a government pin S4 research facility. And again, the story was brought to us by a pretty shady, scammy guy.
This is not a
accurate portrayal
research facility. This is called S2 complex, and it is about 6 miles northwest of Papoose Lake. And what this is this is an old, I don't know if it's still in use, but when I was there, those hangars, those buildings weren't there. It was an underground facility right where the arrow is located. There's and
Yeah,
if
well, you know what, Richard?
analyze that, it goes into the ground.
There's a map that alien scientist Jeremy Rise found, and I also found it, that indicates a mine right in this area.
Right, it's an underground facility. It used to be in mine, where they detained our visitors. The ETs were detained there, and they had to. And I'm giving away some things here, but when we had ET visitors come from other planets, the misconception is they come here, they get out of their spacecraft, they walk around among us, and they live like we would live. Well, that's farthest from the truth. Most ETs that came here that we've had contact with either can't breathe or air is too thick. There's something in our air that they can't stand, and like maybe the nitrogen or whatever. So they have to have special facilities. They have to have special breathing, and they have to have special facilities to survive. We built those facilities right there. And
you're saying this
I gotta go ahead.
I gotta make sure that I clarify though, because that this is going to be a whole new part of this story. Then let me zoom out so that you can see where Papoose is and see where the pinned location is. And you're telling me that this is a facility where they house the alien visitors?
Yes.
Well, there you go, friends. That's breaking new news.
In the 80s when I was there, I don't know what.
And I want to ask you a question. If you could watch this, because this road to me is it's like a 25-foot wide road, and I just don't. Wouldn't you need 4-wheel drive to get down a sandy dirt road up a mountain? Because again, if people
not if there's an underground transportation system, Stephen.
Well, there's more mental gymnastics to make it work, though, Eric.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see. People said that this was S4, and my contention is that you're not going 12 miles on a sandy road in a bus to get to this location. You would need something with 4-wheel drive. That's just my opinion, having driven on sandy mountain roads with and without 4-wheel drive. But this is interesting. So that now we have. This is gonna open this whole S4 can of worms again, Mr. Dodie, because now everybody's gonna say, see, that guy was right. Maybe it wasn't Bob Lazar's S4, but that's where they keep the aliens, bro.
Well, in 1980s, in the 80s, that's the facility. And it's in a remote location. Nobody needs to have access except for scientists. These ETs weren't moved around. There wasn't any reason to have the facility in some kind of easy access location. I mean, I didn't build it, so I don't know why they built it there, but they did. I can tell you that in the 80s, that's what was there. I don't know what's there now.
Let me ask you a question, Rick. So let's say I'm trying to go deep into the rabbit hole.
I only have a minute left. Okay, I got to leave here in just 1 minute.
Okay, go ahead. You ask me, Stephen.
Drop a bomb and run. Thanks, Mr. Doty. Thanks. No, we appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy.
No, I was just going to say that is there any chance that you, as an employee, having not actually been there in person, might have been fed disinformation that you choose to believe for whatever your reasons? Or are you completely convinced that the information you just shared is accurate?
And one more thing. All of the historical maps that I have, including Russian satellite maps from the late 80s, early 90s, and all Google Maps, every source that I could find, this thing wasn't there. There was nothing but rocks and dirt there until 2002. So there's that as well.
Well, I can just tell you what I know when I was there. I don't know what is there now. I know how to get there. Have I been there inside? No, I have not. So to answer Eric's question, I don't think it's easy for people from the outside to say, well, you're just being fed disinformation. But remember, I was on the inside. I knew what disinformation was. I knew facts from fiction. I could read documents. I could talk to people. I mean, I had full access of every facility on Groom Lake. I was a counterintelligence officer. I could go anywhere. I had that badge, the clear badge, which means I had access to almost everywhere. I should say almost everywhere, because I never went to S4. Now, if I had a reason to go to S4, if I had a need to know, I could probably have gone there. But as far as this facility, I just can tell you what I know about it. Now, today, right now, it may be something entirely different. Those two buildings weren't there when I was there. So I can tell you those are new, and they might have been built in 2002.
Well,
Now,
there's a good explanation, because it might be that if all you're seeing is this little square, which is an entrance to an underground facility, you might not see that on satellite maps because it's tiny,
Exactly.
Well, especially old satellite maps
me,
from 1989 and 1992.
Let me tell you something else. We, the United States government, I said this in a presentation on the Benowitz case, we were able to blind Soviet satellites with a laser. We would shoot our laser, and we had two lasers there on Groom Lake in the 80s. We'd shoot the lasers up, and they would blind the satellite, so the satellite couldn't take pictures. And another thing we could do was project an image. And this used to be really highly classified, but it's not anymore. We could project an image into the sky, and the satellite would be taking a picture of that image, not what's on the ground. Now,
Richard, I've seen technology like that that used sort of like, first they would disperse particles in the air, because you need something to project it on. So they would disperse these particles that would linger in the air, and then they back project it from the ground. Absolutely. I have seen this technology.
That's exactly
interesting technology.
Yeah. So, but I'd love to come on again. I got to.
Yeah, let's do this. I will contact you to do a full interview. I would really appreciate it.
But we're gonna wait, as Richard's agent. We're gonna wait till we get our show ready to go, and then we'll.
Yeah, and then you can come here to pump it up. Sure.
There you go, brother. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Dodie. Always good to talk to you.
Okay, you take care. Y'all take care. Okay.
Bye, Dodie.
Have a good show. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rick.
Wow, there we go. So now we just added to this Pingate controversy. Yeah. Richard Doty says that's where they keep the aliens. Oh no! Now we're gonna have a whole new week worth of debate on this place, Eric.
You know what I get a kick out of is all these armchair ufologists that have never been there, don't know anybody that's been there, that go on the internet, and I'm not knocking you or anybody else. I'm just saying that there's always more information. Even the information that I've been able to get from guys like Doty and other people, it's still not even half the information, but at least it's something that I can contribute to the whole mystery of it all.
Yeah, and I just want to mention that I absolutely understand that Richard Doty is a very controversial figure. So here's what happens. I've had 100 people since since my original interview with him a few years ago email me and say, you got to interview him again. Yeah. And then we just have him on for just a quick spot now, and there's people in the live chat, they're not happy. He was, and I will say that he was a disinformation agent. He was paid by the government to disinform people, and all this involved UFOs. I almost don't understand some of it. It's like they convince people what you're seeing is aliens when it was drones. And then apparently when people are seeing things that may be aliens, they're trying to convince them that it was, swamp gas or something.
Or drones. I mean, they're playing both sides. There's no doubt they're playing both sides of the deal. That way,
people should also be aware that both Richard Doty's father and Richard Doty's uncle were involved with UFO programs for the United States government, as well as him. And he worked at Area 51. So I understand that he has done things in his past that even he will say he's not proud of. And I disagree with some of the, I understand he got ordered to do these things, but I don't like some of the things that I know that he did. However, knowing that the guy's father was involved in the UFO program for the United States government, knowing that the guy's uncle was involved, and knowing that he was involved and that he worked at Area 51, I can't help myself but talk to him. And now I realize that some people still think he's, there's all these conspiracies about him. Some people say, oh, he's still on the payroll. He goes in and he muddies the waters and he's, disinforming people. We don't know that. And also, I kind of lost my objectivity when it comes to him because I really like him as a person. So the audience is just going to have to forgive me if you're upset that we host him or listen to him, because I like him as a person and a lot of people want to hear from him. So I'm on this tightrope going, do I let him come on and talk, or do I say, no, you were a disinformation agent? I don't know what to do. I know people want to hear from him though. So my inclination is to let him come here. What do you think, Eric, about all this?
I'm with you. And honestly, I mean, quite frankly, I met him a couple of years ago at the UFO MegaCon in Laughlin, Nevada, and I went there specifically to meet him. Had never met him before. I only knew probably kind of what you guys generally know. I was in the same boat you were in, but I was kind of curious to see who he was, and I wanted to get a vibe and feel for this guy. If I got a sense that he was full of shit, or if he was legit or what. And I've been kind of my deal is I research the researchers. I consider Doty also a researcher. He's constantly getting information that he doesn't share publicly. But I learned that when I was doing my own personal research, I would share things with him privately, and he would tell me whether or not the information that I was given was accurate or not. And then I would go out and I would cross-check it. I would cross-research it. I mean, I was constantly trying to debunk my own self. I mean, I don't want to present information just to be funny or to try to impress people. I'm looking for the truth just as much as you as anybody else. But I'm convinced that Doty is more legit than people give him credit for. And what we're going to do is when we do our show together, we're going to encourage people to email us. And then a part of our show will be where we'll read emails. So if people have questions for Doty in the future, they'll be able to email them. We'll read the emails on the air live and respond. So people will actually have an opportunity to ask questions and interact with them, even if they're not on the phone with us.
Yeah, and Andy is saying, I thought Stephen calls out fakes and misinformation. I'm surprised Mr. Doty is on the show. Like I said, controversial figure. Some people want to hear from him. Some people don't believe a word that he says. So, leaves me at in a tight spot. And I certainly, by the way, I didn't need a guest. People are like, oh, he must have really needed a guest. Eric said, hey, I can have Richard call in. And I said, sure. We were going to originally just have a conversation between me and Eric, but since they're doing a project together and I haven't talked to him in quite some time, I said, sure. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And here we go again. Like, some people can host literal scumbag criminals with terrible criminal records, and that's okay. But I host somebody that we can verify worked at Area 51. We can verify his employment, his history, his involvement in UFO topics for the United States government. I'm inclined to at least listen to him. But I do agree. Mark Toronto is saying he's a trained liar. Yeah, he's trained in counterintelligence. So when I talk to Doty, I'm always very guarded, because I'm afraid that I'm falling victim to some kind of a, maybe he's supposed to come here and tell me this stuff that's not true, or you get into the conspiracy mind with him. But he's an interesting character. The Mirage Man movie is one of my favorite movies. Favorite documentary, probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, and just so you know, there's a very good chance that there will be a. I'm not going to say what the title will be exactly, but there will be a Mirage Man 2, so to speak. But it'll be from the perspective of Rick Doty and the inside information that was not exposed in Mirage Man 1. So I'm hoping to be a part of that project.
Yeah.
The other thing let me go ahead.
Oh, sure. Go ahead. You mentioned that he is constantly getting information. Another thing that people don't know about Richard Doty, but I do, because I know somebody that's part of this group that he's in. He's in a group of retired intelligence officers, and those guys get together and trade information. And many of them, either they still have clearance, or they know people who still have clearance, and they still have contacts and connections. And so they're kind of looking into some things together. Yeah. And they all get together and hang out and share information. So, to me, it's like, one of those things that are like, can I really just dismiss this, or should I at least entertain what he's talking about? You know.
And you guys got to keep in mind too that, in my opinion, if two of the top names that, you know, these guys don't do interviews typically, is Hal Puthoff and Kit Green. And I think anybody that does any research on ufology and the Pentagon and those people, they know
And
that
Richard Doty worked for Hal Puthoff.
Yeah, he still
And
works
worked with
does
Kit Green.
project. Yeah,
He
they're
still
buddies.
Does,
I mean,
he still does work. Yeah,
I've been on the phone with Doty, and then all of a sudden he says, "I got to go." I mean, Kit Green's calling me, so I got to hang up. You know, it's Kit Green takes precedent. But I'm going to say this, that you might be surprised that some of these people might possibly come forward and have some conversations with Doty on our show. And what this is going to do is it's going to open up a box of information that I'm under the impression these guys want to get out. Now, here's what's going to be interesting is we can then compare that information with the information that's coming from the TTSA Elizondo, Christopher Mellon side. You know, so there's two sides. In my opinion, there's two semi-competing factions in the intelligence world that are trying to control the narrative. I'm under the impression that Doty's friends and so on and so forth, they're more interested in trying to get as much of the truth out there as possible, not to cover it up or hide it or muddle it up. It's the other guys.
It should be noted too that Richard Doty has been at the epicenter of so many UFO-related stories and mythology. And there's a few schools of thought. One is that he's sent by the government to put all this stuff out there to confuse people and misinform people and muddy the waters. He's been involved in the Benowitz saga. A lot of people credit him or think that he was involved in MJ-12. And there's some weird evidence that the MJ-12 documents were typed on a typewriter that he had at one of his jobs, the same exact typewriter. That's some weird evidence. And also, people tracked his IP number to the Serpo files that were leaked and released, saying that it was his IP that put that information out. Now, when I interviewed him, he denied any involvement in the MJ-12. He denied any involvement in the Serpo files. But there is substantial and supportive evidence that he had something to do with both. And so I don't know what to think, because then you get in a whole can of worms. Like, I don't think Serpo is credible, but a lot of people still think the MJ-12 documents are either credible or an attempt to get information out. Maybe they weren't real documents, but they had real information. It's this whole can of conspiracy worms.
But consider this as a possibility. I'm not suggesting this is what happened, but this is what I perceive probably happened, is that when you've got a guy, let's use Rick as an example, who maybe kind of to some degree breaks rank a little bit, starts telling stories about aliens at Area 51. I can promise you there's a faction that doesn't like that he's mentioned this. But so what these guys who are professional disinformationalists have the ability to do is create a narrative that could then discredit people like Rick Doty. So a lot of this information, in my opinion, isn't coming from crackhead debunkers on YouTube, like this clown that you were talking about the other day that faked out his cancer. It's coming from the highest echelons that are kind of in this. It's kind of like politics. You got the Dems and the Republicans throwing mud at each other. Most of that mud is BS, but the bottom line is it muddies up the water enough to cause people to get confused, and then they either lose interest or they don't believe anything after a while.
Yeah, and also, Lou Elizondo was a counterintelligence agent, and some people would say that he was a disinformation agent, and it's weird that, like, I guess people just decide, like, well, Lou Elizondo is credible, even though he was also a counterintelligence officer, just like Richard Doty. So we get into this situation where people, I guess, cherry pick and choose who they think is credible and who's telling the truth and who's bullshitting us,
Right, exactly. It's so I don't know. Do you want to go into some of this letter now, or do you want to just keep talking about this? You're the boss. You run the show here, buddy.
No, I gotta find the link. So
I got the letter here. I can read. There's 8 or 9 paragraphs. I can read one paragraph, and then we can kind of debate it or discuss it or think about it.
Hold on, I'm gonna get it.
All right.
I will share my screen and we'll get it. We'll get it going. 1 second.
While you're doing that, let me just make this comment that it's my opinion that some of the things that I've told Dodie, he's very well aware that I'm not somebody that's going to be easily fooled. There's going to be trolls out there that think I'm an idiot or think I could be faked or that I'm signed up on some special program to help these guys spread disinformation, which is all total bullshit. But if people want to believe that, I don't really care. But I think Dodie's very smart, much smarter than me. He knows that if he were to slip up and try to fool me or get me to do things or say things that were not true, that I would figure it out eventually. And then in that point, if that happened, then of course I would come forward and say, hey, you know what? I worked for Richard Doty for 1 year. We did this radio show and I thought everything was peachy gumbo. Then all of a sudden I figured out he told me something that was total BS. So I'm out of here. I mean, that's what I would do. I mean, if I thought at any point that Doty was janking my chain, I promise you I would walk and I would talk. But I don't think he's that dumb. I don't think he's not dumb at all, as a matter of fact. I think he knows better, and I think that he wants to get the truth out as best he can, and that's why we're going to do this show.
Yeah. Well, give me another minute. So the point is that Christopher Mellon puts out this I don't know, letter that claiming that Lou Elizondo should get his job back, which I think is ludicrous. But what are you going to do, right? I mean, why would you give somebody their job back when they've been trashing the government and the government programs? That's why he left, because he wasn't happy with what those guys were doing. He was not at all happy with the way they were running the program. They weren't taking it seriously enough, whatever. So I think, why would you give the guy a job back? Like, it's like in corporate America, you don't get to quit a company and then trash them for 3 years and then get your job back. That's just not how the world works. But I finally got it. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, but let me piggyback on what you just said. Or if, let's say hypothetically, that this whole thing that Lou, and I'm not saying this is what happened, but let's just say this whole thing that Lou just ran on, they ran on us for 3 years here since 2017, 4 years now, was all part of the plan to kind of take control of the narrative. And then now that they've kind of got control of the narrative through Lou Elizondo and UFO Twitter and that whole group, then, they could welcome Lou back. But, there's a lot of ways to go. But the bottom line is I think that group of people, whether they're telling the truth or not, it kind of controls the narrative for the most part right now.
Yeah. All right. So do you want to read from this or do you want me to read it?
Yeah. Let me hold on 1 second here. So I'll read the first paragraph and then we'll just discuss one paragraph at a time. And then if you wanted to read the letter that, okay, so here's we're going to start off. Why hasn't Lou Elizondo been offered his DOD job back? Before we even get into that, why would he want the job back? Technically, he could probably make a lot more money as a solo guy out there doing the sort of things that projects and whatnot, where he can make money on this, a lot more money than he would as a DOD guy. Those guys, I have a friend that's retired DOD 7 years ago. I asked him, I go, what kind of pension do you get? What kind of money do you get? These guys do not get paid a lot of money and their pensions. Go ahead.
Eric, it's important that I point out that Christopher Mellon's cousin is John William Warner IV, right?
Right.
And I have a statement from him about this that I could
read that. Go ahead.
Well, let's get into it first, and then we'll read that when we're done.
Okay. Yeah, and then John did want to join us today. I did ask him, but he had some other obligations. Busy, yeah. But he thinks. Well, I'll wait and let you say that part. But anyway, okay. So here's the letter that was printed earlier today by Christopher Mellon. It says, how many times in your life, at work or at school, have you been advised to think outside the box or to be brave and principled and think independently rather than just going along with the herd? I would imagine more than once. But is that really good advice? I'd like to think so, but let's consider the case of Lou Elizondo. So let's talk about how he framed this first paragraph. What do you see in the framing of this opening paragraph here?
He's trying to paint Lou Elizondo as an independent thinker, a renegade, and somebody that thinks outside the box. He's trying to frame him as some kind of special person that has that ability. That's what I would take from it.
And technically, the jury is still out on that. He's certainly, in my opinion, shown circumstantial evidence through his speeches and his numerous interviews and his general mannerisms and what he talks about as potentially somebody that is being sincere and credible, although there's other people that would argue that. But I don't see any evidence that jumps out that says he's a liar right now, okay? But anyway, so we'll go to paragraph 2 here. In 2017, after years of working selflessly Now, this is the part I want to talk to you about. On his own time, to motivate people in DOD and the IC to take the UAP issue seriously, he finally resigned.
Yeah, so his own time, that means that he wasn't being paid for that work. And that probably is also a reference to the recent revelation that whatever program Lou Elizondo claims to have worked on involving UFOs, it was not funded.
But it also wouldn't have been on his own time.
Yeah, that's the
There's nothing. Let me just say this. In my opinion, this is where Mellon kind of slips up. There's nothing that would show me that Lou did anything on his own time. He was either working for the DOD or he was working on this project, but there was always something going on that was related to one of the two. It was never like, oh, I'm sitting at home at 7 o'clock, I'm having a beer. Let me get up and get in the car. I'm going to go knock on some doors on my own time and spread the gospel. I mean, I don't see that as a reality.
But part of me thinks that, I famously asked Lou to see his tax returns when he was on this Theories of Everything show, and he didn't like that question one bit, because I have this, I don't know if it's a hunch or what, but I think that he had a job within the Pentagon that had nothing to do with UFOs. And then I think that him and Hal Puthoff and a few other people got together, and Senator Reid maybe even, and created this group that they just, were volunteering, and they were using their classified access or whatever to try to get UFO information, but it wasn't an official, it's not like an official government project started, put him at the head of it and said, go investigate UFOs. I think that this was sort of like a personal project that he did while doing something completely unrelated as a full-time job. So that's
plausible. I would say that's plausible. Yeah. Now, where do you think, let me ask you this, Stephen. Let's just use the number 21 million, because apparently that was the money that Reid was able to get for one of these programs that he was involved in. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, where did that money go? Let me ask you something. How many guys were in this program? A handful, 10, 15, 20, I don't know. But where did the 21 million go? Let me ask you this. Is it possible? This is a conspiracy theory right now. Is it possible that when this whole thing was formulated, that there was a big chunk of that money, I don't know what portion of it, and Lou was selected by this group to go out and put this information out after 2017, and maybe some of that $21 million was like a prepayment for him to do all the work that he supposedly has been doing for free for the last 3 years. And now that money's been spent, maybe he wants his job back. Now, that's total speculation. I have no proof of that. But couldn't that be possible?
Yeah, anything is possible, because you can't get straight answers out of some of these guys.
Yeah.
I ran the program. The Pentagon says I didn't run the program. The program was, Lou Elizondo is the one who told the New York Times, he was the major source of that original New York Times article. He told them we had a $22 million program that I was the head of. And it turns out that's not accurate. That $22 million program, that money went to a different program that he was not a part of. But he said those guys worked together.
Let me give you some insight on programs that I'm familiar with that have nothing to do with ufology, but have to do with how black programs work. Is a lot of times what these guys will do is they'll create let's just call it a shell company, for example. And then there's another company. Let's say there's multiple shell companies. So the money gets filtered through these shell companies so that it's kind of it's almost untraceable. There's no paperwork that kind of verifies really where any of this money went. So ultimately, it just kind of gets filtered. So it's possible. I mean, what they tell us in the media may or may not be true, but it's possible that these programs are designed that way so that it's always plausible deniability is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many possibilities here, and it's always these layers of deception. Like I said, we never get a straight answer. It's like, well, I ran the program. The government says I didn't. It was funded with 22 million, and then this book comes out. No, it wasn't. And now they seem to be backpedaling. Now they're saying he did this all on his own time, like a volunteer.
Yeah,
like he just decided he was going to use his government contacts and his access to see what he could dig up about UFOs, right?
Right.
Could be, Now,
here's the thing I can also tell you from a friend of mine that works in programs that has nothing to do with UFOs is that if there were somebody like, let's say, a Lou Elizondo that was part of a different type of program that had nothing to do with UFOs, but had everything to do with black programs and secrecy, that were to kind of slip the nest, so to speak, and then go on their own rogue, so to speak, I can guarantee you that they wouldn't be walking free and talking free for as long as Lou Elizondo has. That's my opinion, and that's the opinion of my friend.
Yeah. I mean, anything is really possible here. So go on and read some more.
Okay, so he goes on to say here that, okay, so let me find.
And maybe Lou Elizondo is going to get mad at you if you try to get that job of his, you know.
No, yeah, I tell you what, you couldn't pay me enough, because another thing I'll tell you that
I would love if you got that job, though.
No, dude, there's no way.
They own you. Beans, bro. You got to spill the beans.
Wait, once you get a job like that you're a part of here's what my friend told me. He said it's almost like being part of the mafia, that once you're in, you don't get out. I mean, you're always, whether you want to be or not, they're always tabbing you. They're if you have information that you're not supposed to be discussing, or that's supposed to be classified information, it's anyway. I'm not even going to go on to that one, but let me read the rest of this article. It says here he did so because these unidentified aircraft were routinely violating restricted U.S. airspace in a manner and pattern that suggested someone has achieved a major technological breakthrough and is using it in a manner that poses a potential threat to the U.S. forces. If this is an unknown agent has benign intentions, why are they provocatively sending these craft to swarm around U.S. airships, apparently intending to be seen and provoke a reaction that reveals our air defense procedures and capabilities? Why are they spying on sensitive DoD test ranges, U.S. nuclear power plants, Navy carrier strike groups, the critical THAAD missile, so on and so forth? So, I mean, what do you think about that? What's your take on that?
Well, a big part of my take on a lot of those things is that we're dealing with a foreign adversary's very advanced drones. That's what I believe, having seen a lot of things. And you know, it's kind of naive to think, do you know what kind of drone technology the Chinese have? It's every bit as good as ours or better. They have long flight drones that could stay up for 20 hours or more. You know, there's so much technology that people could be employing. And drones are really, like problematic for the government because, you know, look at some of this stuff that they're capable of. Like you could have a drone swarm all with miniguns and you could shoot 300 of them at an adversary if you wanted to, you know, or just for surveillance. Maybe the Chinese drones are running around keeping track of where the aircraft carriers of the United States are. We don't know this. I don't like people that go right to the alien explanation with everything. You know, me, I want to eliminate everything, and drones are a good possibility for a lot of these so-called encounters.
All right, let me counter that with this possibility. Do you really believe that 40 years ago or 35 years ago, when they were apparently droning, if you want, we'll use the term droning, military nuclear bases in the 60s. I don't think you can convince me that the Chinese have been spying on us with their advanced drones for 35 years and we haven't figured out how to counteract that technology. And that would be my counter to what you just said.
Yeah, I guess that you're right. And I would think that the government should have technology enough to know that it's a drone. All that advanced radar, they should be able to tell the size of the whatever it is. If it's a drone, if it's a small drone, a huge drone, they should have the technology to be able to identify drones, I would think, or they should be developing it like at light speed right now, because this is going to become an issue with defense. It is an issue already.
It is an issue. Yeah. Oh, and here's what else they can do. Let's imagine this possibility. Imagine that the United States, has drone technology that's the most amongst the most superior of all nations, and that we are testing this technology in areas, hypothetically. And let's say during that testing, a malfunction occurs, or some Yahoo with a shotgun is able to get lucky and pop one and knock it to the ground. And then all of a sudden now it's recovered. Now some Yahoo out in the forest recovers this advanced top secret drone technology that we're experimenting with. So they need plausible deniability. So by calling this drones, then they could say, oh, there it is. There's the Chinese drone we've been telling you about all along. So they're always able to kind of skirt away from the UFO possibility capabilities. By now they're using this drone narrative. Now, I'm not saying that the drone narrative is a fake narrative, but they could use it in that manner to deceive us, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that that's a very good possibility. I mean, I'm sure that people have used drones to try to create fake UFO videos too, claiming that they're
Absolutely.
aliens. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen so many of that, so many of those things, you know.
Okay, I'll read this last. There's one more. There's 5 more paragraphs. So the next one is, obviously, this is a matter of grave concern. Yet for years, nobody in the DoD or the IC had the courage to raise this taboo issue, regardless of the facts or potential consequences for our military and our country. Finally, after a month-long last-ditch effort by Lou failed to get the issue in front of the secretary himself, Lou resigned in protest to draw attention to the problem. I've got a take on that, but what do you think about that comment here? Finally, after a month-long effort, months of effort to get this Secretary of Defense, I mean, what do you think about that comment?
Yeah, I think that they're sort of like sour graping. You know, I think that they wanted to have control of the UFO program, and now that new programs are beginning, I don't think they're very happy that they don't have their hand in it, and they want to, right?
Right. Well, also, wouldn't you think that the Secretary of Defense, whether he would admit it or not, would have as much or more knowledge than Lou Elizondo?
I would think so. I would think it would have a lot more, right?
So couldn't it also be true that if what Lou might have said to Mellon, that I tried my best, but maybe the defense secretary knew exactly what Lou was saying. Maybe he was under orders not to discuss it. So he got, so basically, he gave Lou the cold shoulder. And Lou possibly got frustrated and said, you know what? If no one's going to talk about this, I'm going to go in this direction. Now, I'm sticking up for Lou right now. But I mean, that's a possible, plausible situation as well. I don't know.
Yeah, anything's possible.
Right.
It's possible with this stuff. But it's interesting to me that one of the things that always bothers me, Eric, and you can tell me what you think about this, is that for 70 plus years now, the prevailing belief has been that there's a UFO cover-up, and the government knows more than they're telling us. And you could go as deep as you want into that. They have crash retrievals, they have bodies, they've recovered live aliens, all this kind of, But the general belief has been that the government is lying to us. The government is covering it up. Blue Book was a joke, designed to downplay any UFO sightings and things like that. And now, suddenly, in the last 5 years or so, we're supposed to suddenly believe a bunch of former government counterintelligence agencies. Like TTSA was filled. They had over 100 years combined CIA experience, TTSA's board.
Right.
And suddenly we're supposed to believe these people. And I have a hard time with that. I have a real hard time with that. That's why I don't understand Lou Elizondo fanboys. Because I'm like, you know who he worked for. Remember, the government's covering it up. And suddenly this guy comes out and we're supposed to believe him now. I just have a hard time crossing that.
And I really would. I wish I knew how many of these fanboys were actually bots. I mean, seriously. I mean, I would have to bet
a lot of them. I'm telling you,
exactly.
Every time that I get attacked, it's by brand new accounts, and it's always like some alien. It'll be like Alien Life Forever, and it'll have a picture of a gray alien, and they'll tell me I'm an asshole and how wrong I am, and Lou's a hero. Lou himself has been caught with that faceless bureaucrat Twitter account. He, by mistake, posted something on his sock account that he meant to post on his main account. That's him. I believe 100% this faceless bureaucrat on Twitter is him, because that guy always comes out. The faceless bureaucrat is always defending Lou Elizondo.
Interesting, because I had a conversation with him. I didn't know who he was, so I'll have to keep an eye out for that in the future.
Yeah, you might have been talking to Lou. You didn't even know.
You never know. You never know.
He's a good counterintelligence officer. He fooled Eric the Awakening Man.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll tell you a little side story. So the other, I'm not going to mention the full name of this person or the full name of the show, but I'll just refer to him as Jimmy Black. I think everybody knows who I'm talking about.
Oh, he who shall not be named, but okay.
Jimmy Black. We'll just call him Jimmy Black so we don't get any strikes for that. But I'm not going to throw him under the bus totally, but I will say this: there was a time for a long time, Jimmy Black was saying, "Oh, Lou's disinfo. He's da 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 da. I don't believe anything he's saying." And I would call him up and say, "Yeah, well, whether he is or isn't, you're the guy that should interview him, because then you can ask the questions so we can try to evaluate better where he's coming from." Because he was getting, Lou was getting all these, I call them fluffer interviews, where these guys just get on there and just kiss his ass and ask him all these softball questions.
I call that the UFO circle jerk. That's what.
There you go. Yeah, the circle jerk guys. So anyway, what was funny is so Jimmy had him on a few times, and then now just recently in recent months, somehow surprisingly, which to me is total BS, but Lou happens to call into the show. "Oh, look who's on the phone. We got Lou Elizondo. How you doing?" And then here's Lou. "Oh, Jimmy, my good friend Jimmy, how are you today? Oh, and my good friend Christina Gomez, you're so lovely, darling. How are you today?" I mean, just the ass kissing that was going on. I swear, it made me freaking puke. It made me puke. I said, "You know what?" I said, "I'm done with this. I can't be a part of that anymore." And I had to get out of that. I just said, forget it. That was it.
Yeah, I have a real problem with the softball interviews and the things. And lately, I've started to realize, though, that I have to let things go, because everybody, I guess, has their own way of doing things. But to me, it doesn't bring anything to the table if all you're going to do is lick some UFO celebrity's ass for 2 hours and not ask them hard. Like I said, how many people have interviewed Lou Elizondo? Show me one time where somebody said, "What happened to all the TTSA money? What did you guys do with all the money?"
Exactly.
What happened to the spaceship you promised investors with a revolutionary power source that was going to change the world? What happened to this so-called recovered UFO fragments? What happened? Where's the lab reports? You were supposed to give us the truth. No, they sold that stuff to the Army. They have some contract with the Army over that stuff.
Right. Yeah. It's
so much
crazy.
for disclosure. So much for disclosure.
Yeah. That's a distraction. Anyway, there is a letter that Lou wrote. I think it's about 3 paragraphs. We don't even have to read it, but it was his resignation letter. I mean, if you want to read it, we can, but I don't know.
We don't have to read it. I think most people are familiar with it, or just look up Lou Elizondo resignation letter.
Yeah. So let's finish off with what Mr. Mellon said. There's 5 more paragraphs. So this was Mellon's response to the letter. He said, "Since the publication of that letter, the one that Lou wrote as a resignation letter, the UAP world has been transformed. In 2017, UAP were a taboo subject that few in the U.S. government dared discuss. Now we have a congressionally mandated annual classified, unclassified reports and legislation that may finally compel DOD and the IC to treat the UAP issue as seriously as we do threats like Chinese and Russian hypersonic vehicles and missiles." So what do you think about that little comment right there?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm open to, I think if I'm being fair, if I really try to be as fair as I can, they at least got people talking.
Yeah, I agree.
They got people talking. I'll give them that. And it was much more of a taboo subject, and it's much less of a taboo subject now. You're not automatically a nutter if you talk about UFOs or believe in UFOs, partially because the government have now come out and said, yeah, there's something. They're real. There's something to this phenomenon, and it requires further study,
Yeah, I take my hats off to him for that. I don't know if there was a hidden agenda behind the idea of it all. Maybe there isn't a hidden agenda. Maybe their intentions are sincere. I think time will tell. But let me finish this paragraph. So he says, U.S. senators are now openly acknowledging the fact that the observed UAP technology, in some cases, is so advanced we cannot help but consider the possibility it was not made by human minds. That mind-bending possibility is now being taken seriously around the world due to the congruence of the efforts of Dr. Avi Loeb of Harvard and a handful of outspoken pundits from the U.S. national security community. So have you been following Dr. Avi Loeb? Are you following his conversations?
Oh, yeah. And I read the book, and honestly, his book is very convincing. He gives some very convincing arguments for why that object may indeed be some sort of alien technology. Because of the physics. He uses physics to say it can't turn this way. It can't, some of the things that it was doing as it flew through our solar system, if it was a natural formation, a comet or asteroid, it shouldn't be doing some of the things it's doing. And it appears, according to Avi Loeb, now this is Avi Loeb, not my belief, but it's in his book, he believes that that thing was under some form of intelligent control as it flew through our solar system. And if that alone could be proven true, that some alien from, you know, whatever craft, whatever it is, under intelligent control is flying through our solar system, that would be groundbreaking information if it could be proven 100%. Now, Avi Loeb believes that it is 100%. Well, I don't even want to say he's 100% certain, because he does give the counter arguments and the possibilities that he admits, I could be wrong, but I strongly believe. He words a lot of things like that. I could be wrong, but I strongly believe that this is an extraterrestrial object or an object from another solar system that's under intelligent control. That alone is amazing. And yeah, I have followed that, but I'm a little,
okay. So let me,
I don't really, this new project is like, yeah, we're going to try to bring you disclosure, and we're going to put on the same people that haven't brought us disclosure, but promised us it for 5 years in the form of Chris Mellon and Lou, you know?
Yeah, and here's the deal. It says here, Lou and I are both honored to be part of the Dr. Loeb Galileo project. Now, I happen to know quite a bit about the Galileo project and how it was originally formed. I'm not at liberty to tell you this right now, but I will be talking about it in the future. But I can say this, that I'm a little suspicious that Lou and Mellon would suddenly jump on board with this project. I'm wondering, a lot of things go through my head, but are they a part of it to monitor the project, to kind of continue to control the narrative?
That's what I think. I think they're handlers. They're going to make sure.
There you go.
Any information released is going to be released when we want, how we want, and it's going to indicate or inform people what we want them informed about. That's what
exactly.
I'm concerned with. I'm concerned with them controlling the narrative.
Yes, exactly.
Feels like that's what they've been doing for years now.
Now, my insider, who I'll try to have you on your show sometime in the near future, he says that's what he believes. He believes that he was the one who actually contacted Christopher Nolan over there in Stanford, and also contacted the people at Harvard and was giving them lots of information. And then lo and behold, they got interested, and then they started formulating this group. And then now, of course, now that I'm just assuming this, and I'm not saying that this is what happened, but Lou and these guys are thinking, oh, this is legit. These guys are serious. They're really going to go forward with this. We better get in there and make sure that things don't get too out of control here. So that's speculating.
And we want to make sure that any information that they find, we can control. We can decide what they can release or what they can't. Because I don't believe for 1 minute that if that project finds something, let's say they find smoking gun evidence and proof that no one can deny that there's extraterrestrial spacecraft visiting Earth. Let's say they find some kind of information that is groundbreaking, that is undeniable. Right. Who's to say that Lou and Chris Mellon or whoever isn't going to call up people who are going to swoop in and say, this is national security. You're going to create a panic if you let people know this. You're not releasing this. And step on their nuts. What are they going to do? They're going to do what they're told. You know, that's my concern. I think that any project that has aims like that should remain completely 100% independent of the government and not use anybody that works for the government currently or used to and still has connections with intelligence, you know?
Right. And then, but here's the thing. And if you go back and, like, for example, the Stanford Research Institute, and there's a guy that I don't know if you ever heard of the name Stanislav Ojak. He was actually played the father role for Stan Romanek, and he was one of the original people that worked in these programs with guys like Russell Targ and Hal Puthoff back in the 70s. I was able to have many conversations with him. There's a lot he won't tell me. But what I think, here's what I believe is really happening, is they don't mind telling people that there's probably UFOs. Okay, they've already done that. They don't mind telling people that there's things and anyway, the point, what they don't want to talk about, what they don't want to have a conversation about publicly is about the people that are experiencing the UFOs and how is it affecting them physically, mentally, sociologically, emotionally, and what is it doing to their brains? I mean, there's a study that's been done in Stanford about what's happening to the brains of the experiencers, as well as they're trying to figure it out in Harvard. And I could tell you right now that people in intelligence maybe not all of them, but they don't want this information out. And it's my opinion that that's why Lou and Mellon are kind of making sure that that type of information isn't released yet. It's called a weathering. They're going to give us disclosure, but at their pace. And it might be 20, 30, 40, 50 years, but we're certainly not going to get any real disclosure anytime soon, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm always kind of like, I used to almost make fun of the people that are like, disclosure's coming. It's coming any day. It's coming next year. You know, we're almost there. But now I kind of feel sad for them because I think they're you know, they got their faith and they got their hopes up. But it seems like everything's a nothing burger, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so let's go on with this paragraph. It says, he says basically, why not, for example, acknowledge that Lou was right all along? This is Mellon saying this. Thank him for his service and his sacrifice and offer him his old job back. So why do you think Lou would want his old job back? I mean, let's speculate about that.
Yeah, and you know, those guys are like really, really close friends. So I don't think that Mellon would have written this without talking to Lou about writing this.
Of course.
So that's why I'm so. This is this whole letter thing is very suspicious to me.
Yeah.
But then I thought it was just an effort to frame Lou as a hero again. You know, he's the hero of disclosure, and you know, I don't know.
But then you know what? I sent this letter to your buddy John Warner, who I think is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, he gave us a statement. He gave us an official statement and everything.
You want to read that right now, or otherwise I'll tell you what he told me. Go ahead.
Okay, let me read it. 1 second. Just
all right.
Bear with me. Let me get it. Okay.
And he's the guy you had on that's been on multiple shows. That's related to the Mellons, right? That's what we're talking about.
He is Christopher Mellon's cousin, first cousin. Yeah.
Right.
So. And remember, John William Warner, his mother was a Mellon. So,
right.
And his father was John Warner the third.
Correct.
And I always joke with John that he's in the Illuminati and his family is, and he jokes back and forth with me. Great guy though. Okay, so this is an official statement from John William Warner about this letter of Christopher Mellon. John writes, Chris's letter is pathetic and wholly uncreative. It's repetition of the same old story of spooks pretending to challenge the Pentagon. Repetition is what Joseph Goebbels did in the Nazi Germany on the radio and in the newsreels. The bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. And when you repeat the big lie, you enforce subliminal programming. He goes on to write, Chris and Lou and the CIA and DIA know full well that most of the American public is asleep and understandably ignorant. Even the UFO Twitter folks are 90% on board with the Mellon UAP message of bogus threats, by my estimation. John goes on to write, this letter is a joke that's not funny at all. The very future of the human race is in the balance, but my cousin thinks the spooks know best. Yeah, right.
Yeah, very well said.
Yeah,
and he referred to it. I asked him, well, what is this? And he called it high school mind games. And I thought, yeah. I mean, it is in a sense, this type of psychology is going to work on most people. And here's the deal. They don't need it to work on everybody. I mean, let's just say your audience, my audience, and the audience of some of the other people that are kind of awake as to what's going on. That's not a very large percentage of people. As long as they can fool the majority of the people, that's all they care about. They're not going to fool everybody.
Yeah. And we have Chris Johansson in the chat saying, 3 blurry nothing videos. All this BS is over those. Yeah, I think that they always say though, well, no, they're super clear HD ones that the government will show us those, you know. Instead, we get the blurry ass, garbage that looks like it was taken on a track phone from 1996, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could tell you, I don't know if you saw the video that Arcturus Raw and I filmed out there in Vernal, Utah.
Yes, I did.
I mean, that was a legit video. I mean, that was pretty
better quality. That was better quality than the DoD, than the Navy videos, much better quality.
I was still, to this day, trying to figure out, I even asked Dodie, I says, is it possible that could have been our technology? And if it was, why would they be flying it over there, over in that mountainous area where, I mean, what would be the point of that? I was just trying to understand why would they even need to be out there and testing something like that in the view of anybody? And he didn't really have a good response. He wasn't sure why, but then I did some more research and I talked to some of the people that live in the area where we believe the object was actually hovering over. And there were people that I talked to that live in the area that said that they have seen these things before. This is not unusual for them. And they didn't think that these were objects, that they were ours, that they believed they were not ours. So I couldn't prove that. I'm just telling you what I was told. So take it for what it's worth.
On the Rise is mentioning, considering the 3 triangle craft were out of focus aircraft with FAA lights. Thanks, Corbell, for the nothing burger. Yeah. You know, I love the mental gymnastics that Corbell and others that believed him had to do to turn that into some kind of pyramid UFO. You know, it was clearly had FAA lights, you know, and Mick West, I think, is dead on. I don't have the proper equipment, but I have a friend who has one of those night vision goggles with the same kind of aperture. And he went to an airport and set the aperture at the triangle, and it looks exactly, and he filmed airplanes taking off and landing at a regular commercial airport, and it looked exactly like Corbell's video. With the triangle, it looked like the triangle UFO videos that Corbell put out in green, you know. Because
and here's what could be happening also. It could be that those videos were not technically faked, but they were made to look real, for example. And by putting out videos that then are easily in other words, it could have been that either Jeremy knowingly or unknowingly was used to put out shitty videos so that it could be, so they could further debunk him. But in my opinion, in the reality, there really are these types of craft out there that are not bokehs. I mean, if Mick West tries to tell me they're all bokehs, he could kiss my ass.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And Mick West and I agree on some things. I gotta message him again because I try to get him on the show a few times. Largely though, Eric, I think we need people like Mick West. We need these guys to go and say, no, this is bullshit. And I have a problem with people attacking him so viciously when he's right a lot of the times. You know, he's not right every time. I'm not saying he's right every time, but especially on that pyramid UFO, that's bokeh, and people test it, and it looks exact to Corbell's videos. And me, I don't understand people vilifying him or being nasty to him, because it's like, do you just want to believe that fake shit is real, or do you want to know it's fake?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I get on his case personally is because. First of all, he's kind of arrogant. He comes across like he knows everything, and if he is wrong, or if he might be wrong, or if he's speculating, he tends to slant it in such a way where it's like, no, what I'm telling you is fact. The rest of you are idiots. Just trust me. This is what it is. So I don't like that style of how he puts. But the other thing that irritates me about him is if you go on his website, and he's touched on this briefly in other interviews. He talks about the chemtrail planes. Have you ever seen that part of his website? The chemtrail planes?
I haven't. No.
Okay. Well, I happen to be a 100% believer that they're spraying shit in the sky. I don't know what it is or who's doing it. No,
Eric is a chemtrail believer. I didn't know that.
I'm totally convinced of it because I see them all the time where I live. I don't know if you're seeing them where you are, but I see them all the time. I mean, it's not every day though. It's not like there's any pattern to it. But okay, let's go. Let me bring the reason why I brought this up. I want you to think about this for a second. Remember how Dodie was? You guys were talking earlier when Dodie was on about how they could put stuff in the air, and then they could reflect a holographic projection off those particles. That's kind of their background. So could it be possible? And then he also mentioned, whether it's true or not, I can't verify, but that these ET had a hard time breathing our air. So maybe, I mean, this is a total reach right now, but maybe if they are spraying,
oh no,
this is a total reach.
Make it nicer for the aliens here, right?
Or either nicer or make it harder. Maybe it's a defense program where they figure if they spray this shit in the air, the aliens won't come because they can't breathe the shit, and maybe their technology doesn't work as well. I mean, that's a total reach, but you never. But you got to wonder.
A whole new conspiracy theory.
Yeah, whole new conspiracy. I like it. Yeah, exactly.
Just right here. They're spraying anti-alien aerosols in the air to keep the aliens from visiting.
You never know. You wonder why else would they be doing it? I mean, what would be the point of it? I don't really understand why they need to spray that shit in the air. I don't believe that they're solving the global warming issue by spraying chemicals in the air. You're not going to convince me of that. I don't know. But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to the rest of this article here. So it says here, OSD's petty argument. Who is OSD? Office of what? OSD. What does that stand for?
I got to look that up. I don't know.
Yeah, OSD.
OSD government office. There's so much. I call this alphabet soup agencies.
Yeah,
you know
there's just
you got the CIA, the DIA, the OSD. I've never
the DOD, the PIP, the POP, the POOP, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So it says here,
the office. It's the Office of Secretary of Defense.
There you go. Off OSD's petty argument expressed through OSD spokesman Susan Goff is that there was no formal funding for UAP research after 2012. So how could Lou have been the director of a UAP investigation effort, as he claims? This makes sense to some bureaucrats who think only in terms of money. Never mind the fact that Lou was bootstrapping the effort for years with available time and resources, collaborating with the Navy to investigate the issue, promoting interagency investigative activity. In general, investing extraordinary amounts of time and energy and doing everything he could with the limited resources available. We'll just stop there. I mean, jeez. Again, I think it all boils down to whoever Susan Go's team that she belongs to is not part of the team that the Lou and the Mellon team is part of.
They got their own team, Eric.
It's kind of like political intelligence trolls going at it. They're kind of trolling each other, and we all get to witness it, and we got to figure out who's telling the truth and who's bullshitting. And maybe they're both bullshitting to a degree. It could be that that one group wants to control the narrative and gets more money by being in charge, where the other group, who knows? It's BS though.
They're very competitive, just like all UFO people. I have the truth. Those guys are disinformation agents.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's a big problem. I especially recently Corey Good tells everybody that only I have the real information. Everybody else is a disinformation agent trying to deceive you, but not me.
And all the real information that he put out exactly a year ago that I sent you the link. None of it was true, right? None of it.
Yeah, we did a whole show on it.
Yeah,
this guy's talking to super advanced extraterrestrials and future humanoids that live in the honeycomb Earth, and he's getting briefings, and all this shit is wrong. It was all wrong. None of the shit that he said would happen last year happened. Not one thing that he said. Out of this we have guys like David Wilcock to thank for these types of people that he set in my opinion, maybe there was somebody probably before him, I'm not sure who it was, but Wilcock has set the precedent by proving that you could just continually lie and be wrong, but if you're charismatic about it and you present your bullshit with confidence, you're always going to have a percentage of idiots that are going to pay you regardless. That's just how it is. It's ridiculous, but that's what it is. Yeah, I can show you something interesting. Let me find this because I believe that we have located. David Wilcock moved recently. He's always moving to new, bigger, better mansions. Now, I will freely admit that I have not finished my research into this, but let's take a look at this. You're going to like this, Eric.
All right.
You're going to like this. And I'm about 80 or 90% sure that this is accurate information.
Well, I was at his house.
Here is, according to this, is supposed to be David Wilcock's.
That is not his home. I promise you that.
All right, let's get it off there then. All right, forget it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my source is wrong.
He lives in that. He lives in that.
Source is an amazing source that gave me that and said that's where David Wilcock is living in. Where is it? It's in.
Put it back up there. Let me see the neighborhood again, if you don't mind.
Hold on 1 second. It doesn't really show the neighborhood, it's in Sedona, Arizona, which he did mention. That's where he's living in the most recent of his videos, and this is a bigger mansion than the last one. If this is really his house.
No, that's not that. That's not the neighborhood. Okay, so yeah, I'll tell you why I know this. So I don't know if you remember a guy named Reverend John Polk. He and I used to do this show called the Quantum Hologram Matrix. Do you remember those days?
Yeah, and I've listened to some of that stuff. Yeah, I like him.
So he lives in Sedona. He's been there for a few years now. Whenever I go there, he and I hang out together. So, and he knows everybody in town. I mean, he knows everybody literally. So one of the guys that's one of his best friends lives in this gated community right up the road from where he lives. And this guy, I was at the house hanging out with Polk, and we just were telling our stories as usual. And he says, "Oh yeah, David Wilcock, he's my neighbor." And I said, "What?" I said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Can I, can I come by and hang out? I just want to see." He goes, "Yeah, come on over." So he gave me the gate code to the little gated community, and we went over there. And I even made a little video about it one night. We were all drinking, got a little buzz, and I was running around the neighborhood doing, in search of David Wilcock, and so I didn't show his home on the video because I don't want to totally blow the guy's cover, but yeah, I know where he lives, and you know who else lives on the same block? You're not going to believe this, is Sarah Adams.
Oh, that'd be a funny block to live on. Imagine if they had a block party.
Oh
they could all show each other their crystals and shit.
But Sarah's always very cool to me, very much a sweetheart.
Well, hey, yo, you do me
I'm just letting you know.
She's a favor.
Hey, and Taj.
She's threatening to sue me every couple of weeks. I think she drinks because it's funny.
No, she don't drink. She's not a drinker. I can tell you that much.
Every couple of weeks, it seems like she gets like something up her ass, and then she's on Twitter threatening me to sue me. And listen, Taj, I told Taj that would be extremely bad idea for her, because if she
I told her too. I also recommended.
Sue me, though, listen, if she were to sue me, I would get subpoena power.
I told her to ignore.
I would subpoena all her emails between her and her clients, all her messages, her text messages, and it would all become public. So
I told her to ignore you, just so you know. That was my advice to her as a friend. I said, "Look, just ignore him, and he'll stop bugging you."
She says ridiculous things, Eric. She says like the FBI is going to investigate me for what?
I agree. I hear you. I hear you.
It's garbage. Yeah, she's just trying to scare me and shut me up. And honestly, I haven't talked about her in 8 months, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. She's not as bad as she's not the person that a lot of people think she is. I mean,
Eric Flores says she's a piece of shit, Eric.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. Okay. Other people might have an experience of her different from mine. If she treated me bad, or I thought she was blatantly lying to my face, I would have no problem telling you that right now. But I haven't had that experience, so it's not right. It wouldn't be right for me to just throw her under the bus.
Let me ask you a question.
All right.
You've been very supportive of her, and you're friendly with her. Like, do you think that it is morally and ethically, or even legally, okay that she's selling people $250 med beds, telling them that they're going to go through a Stargate up to a spaceship and lay in a med bed?
Hold on, I didn't know that she had access.
And then at the end of the text where she's pitching this med bed session, she admits that it's just a Skype call. So throughout the sales pitch, it says you're going to go through a Stargate, you're going to go up to a spaceship, you're going to meet the extraterrestrials, you're going to have a med bed session, and then at the bottom, it's like this little disclaimer, like Skype session. How the hell are you going to a Stargate up to a spaceship during a Skype session?
Right. Okay. You know what?
Garbage, Eric. It's $250.
I can't argue. I won't argue with you on that one, because you know what? I got to give her this. What she's doing or not doing, she is a very good marketing person. I will say that much. And here's the other thing. Maybe things are not totally on the up and up, possibly, but it doesn't appear that she has a lot of detractors. At least people that are paying her money, I don't see them joining together and like they do for Corey Good and David Wilcock and Emery Smith and these clowns, where they just want to basically lynch those guys. There's no one out there really trying to lynch her. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Pix has an interesting question for you. He says, Eric, tell Cambion why you originally started your podcast.
Which one? The Altered podcast or the one with Doty coming up? The Altered.
Well, any of them. Why are you?
The Altered. Okay, so the Altered one that we're doing with Vinny is because.
And by the way, I'm going to be a guest on Eric's podcast.
Yeah, that'll be great. We're gonna talk about a lot of stuff. That'll be a lot of fun. That'll be next Saturday, like 8 days from now. Yeah, the Randy Kramer story too. Yeah, Randy Kramer. I think I've told you this story privately, but maybe your listeners haven't heard it. So yeah, I've had many times where I hung out with Randy. We've had some drinks and partied a little bit. At John Polk's house.
Did he show you his superpowers? Because he can teach other people to have superpowers. So I would think he could have shown you his superpowers.
Yeah, well, I don't know why he chose to tell me this story, but I was kind of trying to kind of not grill him, but really kind of dig into some stuff that I probably wouldn't have wanted to do live on the air, because I don't think he would have answered some of the questions I was asking him.
Did you see Eric? He was on another show, this Experiencer Support Network, Tessa, the Experiencer Support Network. He was on that guy's show, Ryan's show, and we're friendly. Ryan was a guest of mine previously, so I went in the live chat and I started asking questions, and he lost his mind and started yelling and screaming and cursing. It was glorious. Yeah. You know, he claims that he was a Marine and a Navy SEAL at the same time. Yeah. And that's impossible. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, well, I mean, here's the deal is he told me about his experiences with acid and LSD back in the day. And he described how he went on this mission for 30 days where, you know, one day he would take a certain amount, and then the next day he would take some more, and then the next day some more, even more on top of the more. And it just the way he described it, I mean, I'm thinking it's possible that during these experiences that he was having on these psychedelic drugs, that he might have imagined or potentially had some experiences that were psychedelic, that later, when he kind of came out of the stupor of being under the influence of acid, that he maybe internalized it and thought it was real. And so in his mind, maybe some of this shit's real, but I don't know. But I'll tell you what, Kramer's a much better storyteller than Corey by a long shot. Corey's the worst freaking story.
But Randy Kramer's Mars stories sounds like he watched too much of that Starship Troopers movies.
Yeah.
Because and then he even talks about the weapons. Like somebody asked about the weapons that they used. Yeah. And he was telling people that he was using weapons that are in the video game Quake. I swear to God, like the same exact weapons that are in the video game Quake. He was telling people that they were using in the secret space program on Mars. It's kind of funny.
I'll tell you a little.
Somebody wanted to know what are the names of Eric's two podcasts.
Okay, so tomorrow night it's called Altered, ALTERED, with Vinny Kocius. We've done 3 shows so far. Richard Doty was one of the shows we did a couple shows back. So we actually, Vinny wanted to interview that guy that you had on that did the alien art. And remember that guy, the alien art guy?
Richard McGill, I think his name is. I'll get her in touch. He would love it.
No, we actually interviewed him already. We interviewed him.
Oh, that guy's wild. Did he show you did he show you the shrimp, the alien shrimp that the aliens gave him?
I told the guy that I thought he was a nice guy, that I didn't have a problem with his personality or anything, but that I couldn't really take a bite out of his story. I just wasn't quite feeling it. But,
yeah, me neither.
But I wasn't going to call him a liar or a fraud, because but you know, who knows? You know, it's one of those things where.
Well, you know what? With me, that guy was one of those guys that like he kept emailing me and saying all these things, and you gotta let me on your show. You gotta let me on your show. And what happened? In hindsight, is always 20/20. If I had known the guy's whole story, I should have talked to him for a half hour before I interviewed him. But I didn't. And then when he comes on, he starts with all this stuff, and it was like such a nothing burger. I felt stupid for bringing it to my audience. But you know, you live and you learn. You know, you live and you learn. And then you know, this is one of those things. It's like, well, that was, you know, one of those interviews where you just go, I interviewed a weird, interesting person. People can, you know, and the audience had fun, because there were people in the audience like, this is horse shit, bro. That's not you know, he couldn't explain how the aliens are doing this artwork or anything. He had no, you know, like he just, it sounded like he
Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. It sounded like he had a good idea for his story, but he didn't flesh it out enough before he started telling his stories, you know?
Yeah, he's interesting. But yeah, we talked to him for about an hour, and then we did a little 10-minute wrap up, and then I don't want to dog the guy. I mean, it's being, you know how it is when, well, your approach is probably a little different than mine. I try to always just give people the benefit of the doubt, but internally I may or may not believe what they're telling me. But I like your style too. You'll knock somebody right between the eyes. I respect that.
Sometimes you have to, right?
Yeah, you know, you're the guy that's going to knock the guy between the eyes. I might be the guy that'll grab him by the hand and sit him in the chair in front of you, and then you can knock him out after that. You know?
Yeah, we got a whole new approach, right?
Yeah,
actually,
really.
I saw, I can't remember, I feel bad now because I can't remember the name of the podcast, but there's a podcast. I'm going to look it up, and I'm going to let my audience know about it, because they have two hosts. They have a true believer and they have a total skeptic, and they bring one guest on, and the two of them grill the guy, whoever the guest is, and it's kind of a good way to. I thought, wow, that's a good way to do this, because you have both sides of the coin, you know.
Yeah, but you're only going to get so many people to agree to do that. You know what I mean? You're going to kind of limit your guest selection. But let me tell you a story that Doty told me. And I've got to kind of filter it a little bit, because I don't really have permission to say this, so he might be listening.
I'm gonna get in trouble. Yeah,
but I will. Okay, I'll tell you this. This is not really a secret. Maybe it is, but Gaia, they've got a guy who does they do lie detector tests for everybody, and we're talking literally David Wilcock, Corey Good, Jay Widener, Richard Doty, all these guys that are on there now, Emery Smith, Randy Kramer. I mean, they all have to pass lie detector tests, apparently. I don't know if it was that way in the very beginning,
well, I know,
but as a result,
they gave Jason Rice a lie detector.
Exactly. Now,
but I want to see who the lie detector company is.
Exactly.
And I want to see the charts. They won't release any of them. I called and checked. I called Gaia. They said, no, we're not releasing anything to you.
Exactly. So it's based on what I was told. My interpretation, this is not what Richard Doty said. This is just my interpretation, is that if somebody knew how, they could beat this test. That's all I could. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's various ways. Listen, there's various ways that you can pass the lie detector test. One way that I've heard is to take a mild sedative before the test. And there's other ways that I've heard and read and researched, because I was interested in that myself, because, so many times in the UFO field, people take a lie detector, and if they pass it, people think that's case closed. And I'm still skeptical. Like, yeah, well, maybe he passed, but is this test? And then, there's a reason they're not admissible in court. I think they're good. I think they're good investigative tools. For example, somebody stole from my grandparents once. This is a great story. So somebody steals. My grandparents were Polish immigrants, and they saved silver, everything, meaning any coins, silver dollars, half dollars, any coins before 1964. And they had something crazy, like 150 pounds of these coins in their attic, and somebody stole it. And it was obviously a family member. So the police came in and they polygraphed everybody, and then they found out who it was based on the polygraphs. Because, let's say they tested 6 people in our family. And this is a long time ago. I was a child, right? But they tested 6 people in our family. 5 people passed with flying colors, and 1 indicated deception. So when they got the one who was one of my uncles that indicated deception, they started grilling him, and he broke down and admitted what he did and said he would give them the silver back.
Right.
And that was a big deal in our family, because now we've got somebody stealing from my elderly grandparents. And I don't know what it would be worth back today, but even back then, 150 pounds of silver is a lot of money, And luckily he hadn't sold any of it yet. He just went there one night when they were sleeping. He knew where it was in the attic, and he took it. And a polygraph examination was able to. So I think it's excellent investigative tool, but I don't know that I believe just because you pass one that you're telling the truth.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you happened to get a chance to hear when Dodie and I when Vinny and I interviewed Dodie, and Dodie explained very detailed how the government goes about doing their lie detector tests, and it is the uppermost echelon of a system.
Exactly. There is different levels of polygraph. There is, and there's polygraph companies that you could go to, and they'll administer. You pay them like $200, and they'll administer a polygraph to anyone you want. But that sort of polygraph from a private company and a private polygrapher is nothing compared to a government polygrapher. They have more sensors, I've heard. Richard Doty told me about some of the stuff. They have more sensors. Like a regular polygraph, you might have, one sensor on each finger or something. But these government ones, you're hooked up like Frankenstein. There's like all these. They put these sensors on your chest so that you can measure that sweat response and all that other stuff. Right. And they have heart monitor, pulse monitors. It's a lot more data that they're getting to make the determinations with these government ones. I wouldn't want to take one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you had a lie to keep a secret. But yeah, so anyway, and then the other story I was going to tell you was about there was a time not too long ago, actually, where Emery Smith is now doing the cosmic disclosure portion or whatever the show with Randy Kramer, and they were doing a talk, and I guess Sid Goldberg is kind of the guy in the background, the producer. He's kind of observes everything and monitors everything. And I guess something was said that just wasn't resonating with Sid. So Sid and Dodie was kind of a part of the conversation. So they took a timeout, and Sid brought Dodie aside and said, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to you and Randy have a conversation. I said, I want you to ask him the questions. And then they pulled Emery out of the room, and Emery wasn't there. And apparently Dodie was asking questions, and, he's masterful, of course, and was able to get, without any coercion, Randy Kramer said some things that totally contradicted something that he had said previously to Emery Smith. So it caused them to become very concerned. I'm not sure if they fired Kramer or they let him go, or if they're just not interviewing him anymore. I don't really know what the status is right now, but it caused a bad light on Randy Kramer. Not too long ago did this happen, by the way.
That's interesting. It's interesting to me. Gaia TV not firing Emery Smith after all the revelations about him is just proof that they're garbage. It's just, I get it. People, It's a form of entertainment and this and that. But and by the way, just a correction. Somebody corrected me in the live chat. The weapons that Randy Kramer was describing he was using on Mars were not from the video game Quake. They were from the video game Halo. But he perfectly described weapons in the video game Halo when somebody asked him what kind of weapons did they use to fight the aliens on Mars, and I thought that was funny. That they got Halo weapons on the Mars secret missions,
Yeah. Did you get a chance, since we're talking about the super soldiers, did you get a chance to see that Oki video that just came out the other day?
Yes, I did, and I can't tell you, at least, no exaggeration, 25 people sent that to me, and I'm gonna interview him. I hope.
Good for you. That'll be a great interview.
Yeah.
I was at that conference. I saw that guy, Oki, and with his buddy, and I've got video. I spent 2 days in the hotel. We had a room with Brad Olson and Tony Rodriguez, by the way. And I'll tell you one thing: of all the super soldier stories that I've heard so far, I can't really get on board with any of them. But if I were to choose one guy who I could potentially get on board with, is Tony Rodriguez. And I didn't even expect that I would ever say that or even think that. But after spending 3 days in a hotel room with the guy, and just observing him and listening to him and being able to ask him questions and have a conversation with him and just watching how he answers and his responses. I mean, he had many, many opportunities over hours of conversation to slip up where I could have said, yeah, this guy's full of shit. But that opportunity never presented itself. So I can't really.
People don't know that about Eric. But here's what Eric does. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard you talk about this. Eric, instead of having an official show, well, now he does, but you used to, you would just go to UFO conferences and he pals up with these guys. He has drinks with them. He tries to go to dinner with them. And he grills them, and then he makes his determination about whether he believes that they're trustworthy or they're telling the truth, and he's sort of like this undercover, because they don't know that he's going to grill. Some of these people that Eric meets don't know that his true intention is, I'm going to get to this guy, I'm going to have drinks with him, I'm going to buy him dinner, whatever I got to do so that I can grill him. And I love that. I love that about Eric.
Honestly, it wasn't like you really grill people. I'm totally more I'm like the soft shoe salesman, where I'm going to come in the back door and I'm going to be real cool about it. I'm not going to even try to challenge you. I'm going to act as if I believe your story. I'm going to smile when you tell your story. I'm going to say that's cool, or wow, or that's really interesting. So then you're going to think that I believe everything you're saying, and then you're going to be inclined to tell me even more, because now you've got a captive audience. So that's always been my style, is to get people just to willingly spill their guts.
Secret Agent Eric. Yeah.
And
I gotta say, I'm a little jealous of Eric, because I have an autistic son and I can't travel with him. You're not putting him on a plane. you know, and because of his issues, it's not like I can leave him with a babysitter for a few days to go to a UFO conference or you know, fly across the country. So I'm always a little jealous of Eric and all of his adventures because he goes to everything and he's hanging out with all these interesting characters from conspiracy land all the time. Yeah.
You know,
Cool
and
stuff.
the one guy that I could never get close to and under any circumstances, and I tried, was Corey Good. I went to several of his conferences. I pretended to be part of the team. I pretended to agree with, and I was supportive of his story. I palled up with his pals. I mean, I tried every angle I could to get a chance to sit in a conversation with him and other. And there was only one time was I even able to get close enough to him where actually we're able to have like a brief chat with him. But because of that, that was the only, he was constantly deflecting anybody that was not part of his secret inner circle. To me, that was evidence of deception, but I could never prove it. I was always trying to come up with proof. And then of course Chanter comes along and just starts pulling his clothes off and just starts, you know, slamming him. And I'm thinking, oh shit, well, it's it's over now. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
but yeah. And then the whole thing with Good suing everybody. And then,
Oh, yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
The guy's such a clown.
Pix is asking, how do you fund your travels, Eric?
Well, it doesn't cost much. I mean, I've got, I probably spend.
I mean, you've got like a real job, right, or something.
Yeah,
like that.
well, I would say I'm retired, I guess, but I do have a little job that I do if I need money. It's legal. I do nothing illegal. Of course, I can't do what I do.
Why do you have to say that? We got to
Well,
make sure that we know. Hey, just so you know, it's legal.
It's legal. Yeah. Well, because, you know, I knew that getting in this field that there was a potential that somebody was going to dox me, and I figured I better be clean as a motherfucker, or there's someone's going to say, oh, this guy, he's this, and that. So I knew that as long as I proceed with legitimacy, without any kind of scammy shit in my background or my history, that I won't. They can't really troll me. So that's kind of been my deal. But it doesn't cost much, really. I mean, gas to go, here and there, maybe a couple $100 max. And then I've got friends that either I could stay at their house, or I've got a van, I can camp in my van, or if I want to get a hotel, you know, I can get a hotel. But really, I don't really spend that much. I mean, if I go out for a month, let's say, or 3 weeks on a trip, I might spend an extra $1,000 that I wouldn't spend if I was home. So, I mean, to me, that's not a lot of money. I mean, if I spend...
Craig Magic says, Awakening Man runs Lazar's brothel. Confirmed. See, this is how rumors start.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, there's shit on.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We're coming up on 2 hours, so I'm about to throw you out of here. I still have to read the super chats. All right. And a few other bits of business, I guess, to get to. But you got to come back, and I'm coming on your show next week.
Yeah,
right?
and we can maybe talk about the. There's still like 2 or 3 paragraphs of this Mellon letter. We can wrap that up on our show.
Yeah. Well, you're always welcome here, Eric. I'm glad that we worked things out. For those that don't know, Eric and I got in some Twitter beef, and I didn't even remember what we were fighting about, but he did, and it was something stupid. And we're like, "Fuck this guy! I block him," and he did the same thing to me. And you and me have such similar interests in so many things that we shouldn't fight over some. I couldn't even remember what you said or what you did. I just remember you really pissed me off, and I was like, "I'm erasing Eric the Awakening Man." And then you were on Chanter's show, and I listened to that and said, "Yeah, man, I like everything he's talking about. Why did we get in a fight? I didn't remember then." So
it's growing pain. It's all good.
I apologize for whatever I said that pissed you off, and I hope we're good.
No, I respect your enthusiasm and your style, even though sometimes when you yell, I find it entertaining, but other times it kind of gets on my nerves. But I like you though, and I think you're doing a good job, and I'm going to continue to follow you.
I told you I'm going to try to stop yelling or do it in short bursts.
No, but I like the yelling though. I think that shows passion. I think that's a good thing. You know, have passion. Just don't repeat the same thing like 5 times in a row. Maybe yell about it like 2 or 3 times and then drop it. Move on to the next one. That's my only advice.
Short bursts. That's
short
what
bursts. There you go.
Told me that I
there you go. You know what?
Yeah.
You'll move up into legendary status if you can master the short burst rants. Don't do a Jimmy Black 20-minute rant and be like that guy.
Yeah. Well, Eric, we can
Okay.
end on this.
All
you
right.
know, a certain other show host copyright claimed me on YouTube and got my videos taken down. And apparently, I had to file this counter notification, and he had 10 business days to sue me in federal court. So I want to give everybody, including Eric, because you know, I want to give everybody the good news. Today was the deadline for that other show host to serve me a subpoena for a federal lawsuit or sue me. And it's 9 p.m., so I'm pretty sure the business day is over with. So it appears that we're going to win our copyright, what I believe is false copyright strikes against me legal situation with Jimmy Black.
Jimmy, the Jimmy Black and no good law firm, you know.
Yeah.
School
yeah.
of
well, I consider it good news that I did not get a subpoena for a lawsuit.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I consider that good news. Now, interestingly, I bet you there's some kind of a YouTube backlog, or I don't know, that it's still up right now. But eventually, when YouTube realizes that the 10 days has elapsed, they will put my videos back and take away this false copyright strike.
Yeah. You'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll be all right.
Yeah, if these idiots keep, you know, trying to promote crooks.
You know, that was one thing that you and me used to argue over.
Yeah.
And you've come to the light side on that guy. Because you used to defend him to the ends of the earth, bro. And I respect that. That means you're a good friend. That means you're a good friend.
I mean, I did defend him, but in the back of my mind, I always knew that there was something kind of shaky going on. But I never really, I didn't see the need to like highlight that. You know, it wasn't like, I didn't see that. It would be kind of just me just trolling people for no real good reason. But now that he's kind of established himself as the person I believe he is, I have no need for him. That's just my feelings about the guy. No need.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I'm going to throw you out of here. You
all
have
right,
a great evening. I'll be and give me the time and all. Well, let's work that out for next week, right?
Yeah, no problem. I'll talk to you. I'm gonna hang up and then I'll go listen on the air with on the YouTube channel.
All right, thanks, Eric. Good night. All right, friends, we have Eric the Awakening Man. And I apologize, we tested this earlier and he had an avatar of a picture of him. I don't know what happened. Avatar's gone. We couldn't figure it out. He came on here and I was like, where's the avatar? I don't know why he doesn't want to do video. I always joke that Eric's like a secret agent. He can't do video when he goes on shows because people might know what he looks like. Maybe he's trying to keep the people he's trying to get close to from knowing what he looks like. So when he cozies up to him at a conference, gets them drunk and starts grilling them for answers, he can get the answers that he's looking for. So we're already a little over 2 hours. I've got a little more time to offer you. So we're going to take a short musical break. I did see a few super chats. For those that don't know, there's 2 ways to support the show. The first way is to throw money at me. You can join our Patreon for as little as $1 a month. We give extra content, a monthly video journal about the show, sort of backstage pass. We also, Patreon benefactors get free music from me. It all goes to Patreon before it becomes public. So even rough mixes of music and this album I'm developing, all on Patreon. Or you can send us a PayPal donation, and the link to do that's in the description. Or you can hit that money button, the super chat. And we read each and every single super chat. By the way, if you do send a PayPal donation, add a note. Make sure you add a note and give us your chat room user ID and any message you'd like us to shout out, and we will do that. Otherwise, you can hit that money button, and that down in the live chat, that's a super chat. Put in any amount you wish and any message you like, or purchase a super sticker. But anyway, we read every single super chat here. So we're going to take a short musical break, and when I return, we will be reading every super chat. So if you're feeling generous and you want to help support this show and keep us creating content like this for you to enjoy, please consider a super chat. We will read each and every one of them when I return. We'll be right back.
share. Self-improvement's overrated. Every day I wake up in the same. What do you want from me? Nothing is ever right. What do you want from me? It's not even worth the fight. Nothing I do is good enough for you. I'm sick of trying. What do you want from me? We'll take the blame and beg forgiveness. But just tell me what the hell is wrong. Don't just stare at me in silence. I'm desperate for a reason to hold on. What do you want from me? Nothing is ever right. What do you want from me? It's not even worth the fight. Nothing I do is good enough for you. I'm sick of trying. What do you want from me? 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 Nothing I do is good enough for you. I'm sick of trying.
And we are back, friends. So there's just a few bits of business that I guess I would like to talk about for a few minutes, and that is, first of all, this Richard Doty thing. I noticed. I don't know. I'm trying to find the politest way to say this. I get that. I suppose. I said some things, and then what happens? We get this back and forth, and then this other show host will say some things, or content creator. But the things that I said, I felt needed to be said, and it is what it is. It's out there in the ether, in the universe. I can't take it back, nor do I want to take back most of what I said. But I could have been kinder, gentler, and more diplomatic about the things that I said. And also, this tonight we have a surprise guest. I didn't know that we're going to have Richard Doty until 5 minutes before the show, and I didn't want to say no. Eric wanted him to come on because of these rumors and just because they're friends. And I think that Richard Doty is a problematic but very, very controversial and interesting character. And on a personal level, I like to have conversations with controversial and interesting characters, especially when they apparently have a lot of similar interests that I do. So I chose to let him come here. And I know that some people are going to attack me viciously for letting him be here. But I stand by my decision to do that, mostly because the vast majority of the audience that we have here, many people have asked me to interview him after hearing this Midnight Hour show interview I did with him a few years ago. So we stand by our decision to do that. Now, if somebody is going to somehow equate me hosting a man like Richard Doty, whose military background can be verified, whose employment history can be verified, whose work history can be verified, whose long history involved in the UFO topic is well known and established, to a scammer who pretends to have cancer so that he could steal money from people, or a scammer that has 10 or more felony criminal convictions, I'm going to have a problem with that. it's apples and oranges. But that being said, I did notice that, because of this back and forth with these other shows, I suppose some people in the live chat are disparaging other shows, other show hosts, and I don't want to encourage that. In fact, I want to discourage you from doing that. But that being said, we're truth seekers here, and we believe in free speech. In fact, somebody was smashing me in the beginning of the show and insulting me and, saying pretty nasty, I don't know. I didn't block the guy. I didn't kick him out of the live chat. I let him speak his mind. But I would prefer to encourage our audience here to not make disparaging comments about other show hosts or other shows. I'm going to try it. I'm going to put that out there. And if you, I'm not going to make it a rule. I'm going to make it a request, because this back and forth kind of thing, it could become a real problem and distraction. Because instead of working on good shows and booking great guests and having great conversations that I could share with my friends here, I'm going to be yelling and screaming because some other show host started some shit with me. And I don't want to do that. Where I would prefer to avoid that's another thing. I got a book on conflict resolution, and it talks about the best way to deal with conflict is to first avoid them. Certainly don't invite them. But then the book goes on about how to resolve conflicts. Anyway, just something I've been reading lately that I thought, wow, that's kind of relevant to what's going on with us. So I'm not going to make it a hard, fast rule. If you got some things to get off your chest about some other show, whatever. But I would prefer that you didn't do that, because things happen. And it seems like these disagreements and it's argument, it's a beef and whatever, they blow up and then they sort of settle down if both sides stop. If both sides continue doing that, it keeps going. If both sides just step away, maybe cooler heads can prevail. And that's what I'm hopeful for. I'm going to do my best to try to avoid new conflicts, and having people just, rip to shreds some other show. And it might not even be, see, this is difficult. The problem is when you say that stuff in my live chat, it kind of goes, it makes people think that I condone you saying that, or that I agree with you saying that, and I may not. And I'm really trying to just squash whatever beef and move forward with great shows like we had tonight. Because tonight we didn't yell and scream, and we just had a nice conversation. And I'd like to have more of that in my life, and I hope that you would like to see more of that as well. So we're gonna go ahead and thank you, kind and generous super chatters. I'm gonna put this up on my screen. We have just a few tonight. So just have a couple of those to shout out, and then I'm going to bounce on out of here because, friends, I got to say, I'm going to thank Spooky for all the help that Spooky gives this show. But this week has been, and I think it was a great week of shows, and I hope you do too. Couldn't have done it without the help from Spooky and you kind of generous supporters. So tonight we had just 2 super chats. Collie Armstrong with $2 Great Britain pounds says ongoing work, Stephen, and Lee Guy with kind generous $1.99 asking, does Richard Doty like bacon? That made my night. Thank you, Lee Guy, for your kindness, your generosity, and your support. In fact, thank all of you kind and generous supporters, benefactors. It really does help keep the show going. So I'll take some comments and questions from the live chat before I bounce on out of here. I was saying that this week was a great week for shows, but it was hard work, some of this. And I'm kind of beat. I'm going to go get my drink on. It's new case day. You know what that means. I got a whole case of beer. Got to try to only drink, a certain number though. New case day could be dangerous. No, I'm gonna be good, but I am gonna have a few beers. Absolutely. We have the University of Collective Consciousness. Love that user ID. Sounds like something I'd be interested in. So I gotta check that out. The University of Collective Consciousness says, just found your channel. Keep spreading your truth and keep an open mind. I'm going to try to keep an open mind. Yeah, I really will try to keep an open mind. Al Warrior, the kind and generous $5 super sticker. And I'm sorry, those first 2 super chats are way, way back in the live chat, so I couldn't share them on the screen. But any super chats going forward before we end our broadcast, I can put on the screen, read, and thank you as well. Spooky wants to do an after party. Spooky, if Spooky had her way, I would be live streaming somewhere on the internet at least 12 hours a day. Spooky, you're a bad influence. No, I'm going to pass on the after party, Spooky, but we can talk about doing something tomorrow night because I'm not going to the cabin. For those that don't know, the cabin got a huge snowstorm, and where I live got a pretty good one, a pretty good wallop. So the kids were home today. We had to do the virtual school, which wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. They don't make you do it for, 7 hours. It's just a couple hours in the morning. So it wasn't that bad, but, but anyway, I'm not going to the cabin this weekend, Spooky. So I am available to do something tomorrow night. Blinken Liar says, Victor, thanks for your research. It is a compelling case. Yeah. Victor, we want to have you come back. Do you know I'm doing a show on the health crisis and Australia going crazy? And you're Australian. I'm going to have Daniel from The Context on, and I would like to have you as well, just to talk about your experience. I want to let Americans know what's going on over there, Victor. It's crazy. It's so crazy. Now you can't leave your house for even an hour a day. It's crazy. I shouldn't laugh. I feel for those people. It's like they got camps over there and stuff. Peter de Haviland says, can anyone explain how David Wilcock has avoided jail despite preying on the weak-minded and vulnerable? I don't know. Some of the things he did look like criminality to me, but I'm not a federal prosecutor or a law enforcement officer, so I think that eventually he's going to go too far with one of his grifts, and that's when they're going to nail him. And take from this what you will. Could be a rumor because it's a news source that I'm currently developing, but they're telling me that the IRS is up certain conspiracy land characters' asses right now, big time. And I don't know if that's true, but I'm hopeful that it is. Victor says, sure, I can do that. All right, I'm going to try to coordinate it with you and Daniel. Let's see when Daniel can do it, and then I'm going to see if you can also do it. But I'm going to do it at a good time for you guys because of the time difference. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning here, if it's 3, whatever. I don't know what the time difference is. Let me see. Time difference, U.S. to Australia. Yeah, it's like, it's a 4-hour difference. Well, anyway, we'll work it out. We'll work it out offline, Victor Collier. And good to see you here. So Peter de Haviland says, when I was at the university, a security expert came to speak at Oxford Union. He demonstrated how to beat one, and a half dozen volunteers who tried, which is 10 minutes coaching, all passed easily. Oh, how to pass a lie detector. That is interesting. That is interesting. I think that it's entirely possible to fool. Mark Toronto, I'm in Sydney, Australia. I can go anywhere I need to go. Don't believe the media hype. But have you had your Fauci ouchie? Because I'm talking about people that have not taken that procedure. If you have not taken the procedure, you're not allowed out of your house even for work now. I saw a video on Twitter just yesterday or the day before, Mark. That's what I was basing that on. Lord Ludicrous Platt is here and says, great show tonight. Yes, I agree. And Mike Gibley says, nah, he was talking about a circle jerk. Pragmagic, I can't imagine. Seattle had some snow last week, and it ain't for me. I grew up in the desert. Oh, really, Mark? That's interesting. Well, maybe is it different provinces, or are they all the same? I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to check. Now I'm gonna have to find that video. Lisa M says, I'm getting my drink on now, and I will be soon. In fact, I'm going to bounce on out of here. We're almost up to 2.5 hours. Yeah. Yeah. Lord Ludacris says, that is insane. Australia has lost their mind. I agree. Philip Blair says, who is Awakening Man? I'm just checking my phone now. Eric the Awakening Man. Well-known conspiracy land character. Yeah. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I especially want to thank our kind and generous supporters and super chatters. I also want to remind you that besides throwing money at me, there's one other way that you can help, and that is to like, comment, subscribe, and share. If you're listening in audio podcast land, you're missing half the fun. Go on over to YouTube. Put Truthseekers in the search bar. Look for me, Stephen Cambion, your host, the strange guy with the sunglasses. Smash the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you too can come here and be a part of our very fun live chat, live broadcasts. You can participate in the chat, chat with other like-minded people, offer comments and questions and commentary to what we're talking about on the show. You are most welcome here, friends. And the other thing that you can do is to leave some comments. Let us know what you think of this episode. Did you like this guest? Should I say, I'm sorry, Eric, but everybody says you suck and you can't come on the show no more. If you think Eric the Awakening Man sucks, put it down there, right down there in the comments. Let me know that he sucked, and I won't have him again. We want to have, guests the audience likes. So, I always got to tell you this, friends. I'm always happy when there's an audience. We had great numbers again tonight, and I'm seeing this steady climb of the live chat, and it's good to see. It seems like we're picking up and getting a lot more people in the live chat, and that certainly puts a smile on my face. It lets me know that we're growing and we're expanding, we're evolving the show, and that for sure makes me feel great. Thank you for being in my audience tonight. Thank you for spending some of your time right here with me. Someday I will look back on this journey and I will be thankful for each and every one of you who came here to see us do this thing, to hear us do this thing, to take part, to participate in this journey. And what a journey it has been, friends. I'm glad that you can come along with me. So until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night and God bless all of you.